Need a prayer.
We are live. Gonna wait for a few people to get in, and then we're gonna get this conversation started.
Oh, let me see. How do I close this? It's me. It's me.
Oh, I got should I put on Do Not Disturb? Let me do that now before it's too late. Okay, there we go. That's a little better, right?
Standing in the need of prayer.
You got it. It was fine.
There's something here. Oh, it's me. It's me. It's me.
Hi, you guys. So we want to discuss what has happened. I think it's obviously today, the ruling with the Supreme Court of the United States of America. We want to discuss our take on it. We want to discuss what that means for this nation, and basically certain pointers that we may have, points of conversation that we may have in a platform. So where do we get started, May? You want to tell everybody what happened today?
So, I mean, I heard the back end of it. So in a nutshell, the Supreme Court actually surprised me, to be honest. I had seen clips of hearings about a week ago, and I actually was surprised to see Roberts, for example, and all the justices except three, the obvious three, actually asked some relevant questions. So today, hearing that they did put a stop to some of the madness is a nice welcome. Is it the whole of it? No. I was actually somewhat not upset, but I was like, you must be kidding me. Something like this even makes it to the Supreme Court. They have the time of day to entertain something like this. It should have been rejected. And there's precedent for it. When it was time to address the election some past ago, they didn't even take it in the Supreme Court. So, well, they took it in, and so they gave us a good crumb. So we're thankful for what has been done, but we have our eyes open because right now the whole medical field, Medicaid, Medicare, so you're talking about the elderly, you're talking about a lot of people are still mandated through the Supreme Court now to be vaccinated. So there's a lot to say about that. So yeah, in a nutshell, is what happened.
So my take on it, which it could be agreeable to some people may not agree, but this is what I want to say. Initially going into the pandemic and dealing with the COVID issue, I felt like the God of this nation became the enemy of this nation. And that is basically Big Pharma. Okay. We have grown to a place in this nation where medical advice and medical physicians literally have say-so over all precedents, okay? To the point that even your rights and your freedoms can be stolen from you for the sake of someone as simple as Dr. Fauci, who hasn't even been in practice for years, but just his counsel alone can strip away the American people's freedom, right? That right there is an example of how much this nation has submitted to Big Pharma. On top of that, even prior to mandating the vaccine, so many people were running to get vaccines because there's this brainwashed, ingrained kind of mentality to going to the medical system for every solution. And actually, a lot of people frown upon holistic health. They frown upon the doctor who doesn't prescribe medicines and gives more of a natural approach. FDA will never approve essential oils and certain vitamins. And it's not because they aren't effective. It's because they're not making the money that Big Pharma wants them to make. So why am I saying this? I think it is a reaping, in a sense, when it comes to Big Pharma and the medical field. Now, hear me out for a second. 2 ways to make a nation socialist: through government health care and state jobs. Those are the 2 main ways you make a nation socialist, okay? I'm going to repeat that. Government healthcare. That's why when you go to France and all these other socialist nations, they tell you free healthcare. Okay, and they're the ones employing, basically the ones working for the doctors or working at the office, also working for the government, for the state. And then also you got your state workers and this, that, and the other. Those are also the ones that are still going to be mandated to take those vaccines. So now they've left the backbone of this nation alone, the private businesses, the private economy backbone of this nation, right? So we can continue to run. But now there is a crossroad in the medical field as well as even in the state situation, to where, does this mean this is the end all to healthcare workers?
No.
I'm going to say that again, because the comments in the last in my last live was that, okay, so what is the how does this play part for that medical worker? Okay, I'm going to give you an example. You remember Natalia from Jersey, my pastor's wife?
Oh yeah.
So she had 2 aunts with cancer. Okay, she had a side gig. She was a nurse full time. She utilized her training as a nurse to supply these women that were dealing with cancer with I don't know, it's a specific thing that is called, it's like an IV drip, but it's vitamins that they put in an IV, and it makes it easier to flow through the bloodstream, and it would just revitalize these ladies. It would just give them back some life force that they didn't have, it because cancer was just depleting them. Okay, so though these women were dealing with big pharma help, she still tried to offer some type of natural remedies, and she really made a lot of her income doing the side job of offering those the IV vitamins, right? So this is the thing. You can still prosper in medical help. You just can't, if you don't want to take this vaccine. If you don't want to take this vaccine, you can no longer co-sign with Big Pharma. You no longer can be a minion of Big Pharma. So this is good for you. So now you can still, if your heart, first of all, if your heart is just in being a nurse because they pay good money, then maybe you need to find a new field anyway, because you ain't called. But if your heart is really to be in the medical field and help people, you should know this is not the end all to healthcare workers. This, in my opinion, is opening up a whole nother market. It's making the holistic medicine market bigger. That's what it's opening a bigger door, because so many people are not going to be able to submit to the healthcare system right now because they're not going to take this vaccine. And now it was one thing when you're a nurse and you may have some medications that you don't agree with, but you're giving it to somebody you don't know, and it's your job, right? But it's a whole nother level when now you're being forced to take something that you don't feel is right. So now it's one thing when you're just a minion helping. Not to say that's what all nurses do, but it's another when that same devil comes knocking on your door. And so now you have to reevaluate the things you're going to do, right? And now you have to take a different approach to medicine. Me personally, as an individual who's against this vaccine, as well as where the medical field is going, I'm not going to be one to run to the hospital. So you know what? If a holistic medicine shop opened up down the street from my crib, me and Emma going to be the first chicks there, and Ricky. So that's my take.
Well, I mean, honestly, for me, when I heard about it today, I was very thankful for the founding fathers in the sense of how they constructed the Constitution and the separation of powers, and just really thanking God for obviously his great providence in that area, and the wisdom that he's given them in that, because we know that on this planet there are nefarious, governments and systems that go against God-given rights that we should have as a people, as humanity. So I was just thanking God for that. And secondly, I was honestly upset because I'm like, this shouldn't, like the same thing Edme said, this shouldn't have even gotten to Supreme Court. This is something that to me is obvious, right? Mm-hmm. This is just obvious things that shouldn't even have gotten this far, but that's where we're at today. So I do take that perspective from it. And I also take the perspective of my wife in the sense of as far as healthcare and how now they're getting the gut punch in the sense where, it's really causing Americans now to say, okay, my practice is being a nurse. I care about people. So am I going to bow to this, or am I going to start my own business now? Am I going to now have the courage as an American? Because us Americans, we don't bow to tyranny.
That's right.
It's been like this since the founding of this nation.
That's our blood. That's our bloodline.
Exactly. So that right there is in the sense of us as Americans, we have to take a stand, and we're going to step away from Big Pharma. Big Pharma right now is in a situation where they want to, and big tech want to take colonization of this whole nation and have everybody in this one little bubble, and you have to obey what we say or you're cut off. So, that's not the way, that's not the American way. So I'm very happy for this small win today. And I believe God is up to something. And I was not expecting it either, but I know God is up to something.
Yeah,
so.
That's right. And state workers too. Don't forget the state workers are going to feel it too. That's them. We talk about the men. We talk about these are the guys who've been working in the welfare office for 30 years. Who do 2 assignments per day. Get paid a full salary off of us. Okay, and treat us like trash. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm there's a picture for anyone that's still wondering what Bev is talking about, Ricky is talking about, what we're talking about in terms of the switch and the opportunity. I'm thinking about someone like Marva Collins. Now, this woman in the 70s was a teacher. The school system was totally messed up. She was in Chicago, came from, I believe, Mississippi or Alabama, totally messed up. And she took it upon herself to quit because there was nothing she could do in the system. Started a school in her neighborhood with the kids from the neighborhood, 1 kid, 2 kids. I actually believe that what happened in the education, and it spearheaded a lot of the charter schools that you see today. I mean, she was even called upon by Reagan to be, at the time, Secretary of Education, but that's how much she changed the game. I think this is an opportunity for the whole medical system to be set free from what Rockefeller did. You talked about holistic medicine. Rockefeller is the one with his money that said, I'm gonna bring Big Pharma to the table.
That's right.
Shut down any opposing views. So no, there was no such thing as hydroxychloroquine, the equivalent that we have today. Back then, we're gonna shut down everything, and I'm gonna promote my drug. I'm gonna buy my propaganda. He bought the press. He bought pharma. He owned pharma, and he imposed Big Pharma back then. So I actually believe that that's an open door. Now, I don't think the justices started that. I think they were trying to be politically correct on that one, trying to please everybody on each side. But if we're clever as the people of God, and I know there are a lot of Christians that are in the medical field, pay attention to what's being said. Seek the Lord, because he may have you start your own practice with 1 person, 2 people, but it's going to grow, and it's going to set a lot of us free.
Amen. What we're basically saying is, okay, so though this is something that was voted in Supreme Court, this can be culturally correct in a way, because I'm not for the mandating of vaccines at all. But what I'm seeing is glass half full rather than half empty. I'm seeing opportunity. I need you guys to be visual. I need you guys to be visual like me. And I need you guys to look past the issue at the moment. Okay? Let's be very clear. A lot of you in the medical field right now that haven't been at peace with taking this vaccine, when are you going to get to a place where you start seeking the kingdom of God and stop depending on a check? And this is coming from individuals who lived it. That still goes for those in the medical field, okay? We know doctors who have decided to start their own practice to fight against the tyranny, right? And to supply what's needed to the people. Your neighborhood, little house on the prairie doctor, God has provided for them in such a substantial way. They are still covered, but they are just not selling out to Big Pharma. So I don't want you guys to think that because a Supreme Court didn't save the day in the way you think they should save the day, that it's the end all. There are still more options. You just have to be willing to become more independent. But how are we going to get to a place where America can get healthy again? You do know that Americans we're some of the biggest drug addicts in the world. You do know that, right? Like we the opium crisis. Remember that? I mean, man, they sell us pills like it's nobody business. Okay. We really have to break free from that. Not only that, we're dealing with obesity. Now, this is the one thing I'm gonna have to say I agree with the liberals on. Two things. Their take on health when it comes to, I think liberals usually take more of a holistic approach than conservatives. I'm not gonna lie. Like they're more so naturalists, things like that. And they also take an approach when it comes to like the food. I'll tell you this, when I go to Europe, as liberal as Europe is, and I can't stand it, they have some of the best quality food you've ever had in your life. The vegetables don't have all that GMOs and all that stuff in it. They have quality. I mean, every time I'm in Europe, I'm just like, I had a cheeseburger in Germany, and I said to Emmy, oh my God, this is the best burger I've ever had in my life. The quality of food is because they haven't big pharmatized it in Europe. They haven't decided to put a bunch of antibiotics and all of this stuff into the pumping medicine into their food, let alone their people. So now we as the American citizens, how are we going to survive the next couple of generations when we're dying out? You got women 20 years old getting breast cancer. Like that's crazy, right? So now, yes, Aldi, she said, I got to highlight this. Linda Spooner said, buy from Aldi.
That's fast.
Girl, listen.
You called it out.
Now, let me tell you about Aldi. Let me say this about Aldi real quick, Linda. Let me tell you this. No, Lynn, that's Lynn. Let me tell you this, girlfriend. Walmart got a little pricey. They got uppity because of Biden and his administration and this little hike in prices. So Emma was like, she pulled up at Aldi and she was telling me how good it was. And then she also reminded me Aldi's from Europe. So most of their products are imported from Europe, right? So now I'm like, all right, I go pull up in Aldi and I'm looking at these prices and I'm like, ooh, they had a whole duck for $13. They have a fresh orange juice for $2.99. It's $3.99 at Walmart. I'm like, yes, man, that's a whole $1. So I'm up in Aldi, but this is the part that gets it. When I got home, the quality of the food. So technically, peep this. In Europe, Aldi is technically the low grade brand. In Europe, Aldi is the cheap brand. In America, it's actually better quality because it ain't pumped with the drugs. Okay? So again, America has taken on a foundation of pharmacia, big pharma, and now basically the Supreme Court just shot themselves. Now, I'm not going to say themselves. I'm not going to say they're big pharma. If they're partnered with big pharma, they just shot their partner in the foot. Whoever's team big pharma, they're basically out on their own right now, and they're giving the American citizens the choice of divorce. And now check this out. Hear me out. If the medical field is the only ones, and the states are the only ones pushing vaccines, and you don't want to take a vaccine, you go private or you go to a new field where you got freedom. So now where there's no employees in one field, a lot of the guys from the medical field who obviously can't be in medical field anymore can now make their way into tech or whatever else they're going to make their way into. It doesn't deplete the business. It just gives people a little bit more different places to go because obviously if I'm not comfortable taking this vaccine, I can't be there. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
What do you think?
I agree. One thing I would say is Benjamin Rush, he's one of the founding fathers, and they call him the father of medicine. And he was one of the individuals that really pushed during the founding times. They pushed for natural, holistic ways, and they actually taught the public on how to do that. And that's where you get the Little House on the Prairie and all those things. Like there's a foundation to how things started. And unfortunately, throughout time, as Edmé talked about the Rockefeller Foundation and all these other foundations, the Gates Foundation, and what they're about, they're not really about that foundation as far as what Benjamin Rush was about, as far as the purity and really caring about people's lives. A lot of these men that were the founding fathers, they escaped tyrannies coming from Europe and all these things. So they wanted to start here in a fresh way. And that same concept or mindset a lot of you should have when it comes to big pharma, or if you're a nurse. Hey, I'm not going into that tyranny. I'm going to start my own. So be God-centered and really implore him about that, and he will guide you. He'll definitely guide you on that.
Amen. So if y'all see on the screen, I just posted Jessica's statement, and she said that they're mandate. Let me tell you something about me. Before all of this mandate and stuff ever went down, if I didn't feel comfortable doing something, no matter what job it was, I wasn't doing it. I quit. Period.
Yeah.
Period. I've never allowed my provision to be more than my own dignity. Okay? I'm gonna tell you something. When you do something that you don't want to do for a check, you're prostituting yourself. I'm not calling you a prostitute, but what I'm saying is that if you think that a girl gets up every day and just say, hey, I think I want to be a prostitute when I grow up. Okay, no, don't work like that. And the day that happened, Jesus needs to come home for real. But the reality is most individuals who do things like that is because they feel they have no choice. They feel like they have to. So they're taking the most degraded position just to quote unquote what? Survive, right? So in the same way, as you're working as a CNA or whatever you're working as, if you are doing something that you know internally and morally you don't feel comfortable doing, and yet you're willing to do it for a check, you might as well go on the strip. What's the difference? It doesn't matter whether it's a 9 to 5. I mean, at this point, it's prostituting yourself, and it literally goes against your own faith as a Christian. First of all, number one command, Jesus was saying, seek ye my kingdom and righteousness. Don't worry about how you're going to eat. Don't worry about how you're going to dress. So though we may sound radical in making a statement, you have to understand this is a command. You are already radical because you chose to be a Christian. So you can't half step it. If you're going to be a Christian, be a Christian for real, for real. You can't sell out, not even to yourself, for the sake of a check. And that's just the truth.
We got to remember where we are. We're in America. By the grace of God, there's still a huge demand for people to work. There's a huge demand for workforce, by the grace of God. And so you have an opportunity still today to trust God. You may have to do things that you had not envisioned doing, but if your heart is to fear the Lord before man, and again, now if you feel that God gives you conviction that you can take the back, again, we're not telling you one more on another, but obviously if you don't want to do some things because there's a witness in you not to do so, and you asking the question shows that you're questioning and you're wondering what to do in this hour. You're in America. There are options, but the first things first is to have faith in the Lord. This is training. What would we do the next time they come around and say, I want you to deny Jesus? Are we going to say, well, I'm a med student and I got to keep going? What are we going to say? So I believe it's an opportunity for us to stand for Christ. They may not say it that way, but every time that we see the people of God being challenged to choose God, we better do so while we still have room. And I believe right now we still have room. There's plenty of opportunities out there to make a living. It doesn't mean that you won't be a nurse. It doesn't mean that you won't aspire to the career that you're looking for. But there are opportunities. And first things first, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. So yeah.
That's right.
Amen.
So Diane, she said, does this mean that it's mandates for medical and Medicaid workers? And so basically for medical workers and for people that are on public assistance programs, they're going to be mandated to get it. Welfare. Okay. Let's break down what socialism is. Socialism is when government funds it, right? And what people fail to realize is while it may be government funded, it also puts you in a position to be enforced by the government to do something that you may not feel comfortable doing, but they've made themselves the bread and butter of your life. So for a lot of individuals that are on government Medicaid, okay, now they are going to have to be subjected to doing what the government wants them to do. I'm going to say this. I've said this before. I'm going to say this again. If you ever want to know what socialism will do to a people, look at the Black community. And I'm not saying look at the Black community as a whole. I'm talking about the inner city Black communities that have generations of growing up on the welfare system, okay, who are just being subject to whatever they tell you to do so that you can get whatever benefits they offer. Now, if you are on Medicaid and you choose not to get that vaccine, your Medicaid is just going to be cut off. But now you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do. But I'm sorry, Jesus is still a healing power. He is. He is. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep it real. Jesus still healing. He's still the same God healing. The same God of old that was healing then, he's still healing now. Pure point blank. It is not the end all following a practice when all they're doing is practicing on you. Okay, sorry. And then also working in the medical field. A lot of these, I'm not going to say all, you do have some private hospitals, but most of the time, most of these hospitals are governmentally funded. Okay. And so that's why they can even have the authority to do what they're doing. Okay. So again, it's kind of bittersweet, but they're literally backfiring on their own system. If you get what I'm saying. Can somebody expand on that? I feel like sometimes maybe
Well,
I
don't know what Ricky has. Ricky, you got something?
I get what Beverly is saying. She's saying basically with Big Pharma, right? What Big Pharma is doing and what they have been doing is the mandates. And with the mandates, people who are nurses, doctors, they have to be vaccinated to work. Individuals who are on welfare now, if in regards to socialism, right? And as much as you want to continue with welfare, you have to continue to do what they tell you to do. So what is the line drawn in the sand as far as will you listen to your conscience or will you listen to Christ? You understand what I'm saying? Like, so what she is basically saying is socialism doesn't give you much of a choice. You don't have a choice. You don't have free will in the matter at all. That's what I'm getting with that. You don't have free will with that. At this point right now, you have to choose Christ and listen to him, and what he wants you to do is always a choice with Christ, but he will lead you and guide you in what he wants you to do.
Yeah. When you allow government to have a say-so in your life because of the money that others pay into it, the government doesn't pay. Other taxpayers pay for any service that the government has for you. You make yourself a warden of the state. Government becomes daddy. Government becomes God. I recall I was born in Europe. I was born in France, born and raised. And when I came here at age 20, I was at 21, about 20 years ago, I started to realize that I had lived in a socialist state. I had known it. But when I got here, I saw the difference. I saw that people here had still a belief in God when it comes to Christians. I didn't see that in France, because in France, government had become God. How? Because government teaches their Bible? No, because government tells you we're going to educate your kid. And if you homeschool your kid, they won't be valid. Their grades won't be valid in society. So what do people do? They take their kids to public school. Government tells you, well, hey, if you don't work, it's okay. We'll take care of you. We'll take care of you. But nothing is free in this world. Only thing that's free is salvation. And even that, it costs something. So for anyone that's been generationally on welfare, you have given yourself, you've given your generations and your posterity after you to the state. The state owns you. So guess what? When the states decide to do something, guess who the first guinea pigs are?
Y'all.
We are. Whoever subscribes to the state.
Whoever subscribes, that's it. And I'm going to say to those who are, not to the ones who aren't, y'all, because Miss Bevelin will go scrape up some roots in the woods before I be up in some Medicaid nothing. I'm sorry. And just for my own dignity, I don't want nothing from the government. Once I found out what the government was about and the demise that it has played on families, blacks as well as whites, I'm not signing up for their benefits. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I'm sorry. And I know some people may be like, well, we have a lot of kids. We got a lot going on. Listen, you ain't the only one with a lot going on. There's a God. I'm sorry. And if you trust him, he'll show himself worthy. And that's a Fendi fact. All right?
I remember the days when it was shameful to be on welfare.
Yeah, like it wasn't always cool to be on welfare.
No, this was the last thing. You're a punk if you get on welfare. That was my uncle. I remember my uncle talking about that. What? You go to a store, you see someone pull out an EBT card. This was bad.
My dad used to be embarrassed as a kid.
rather deal drugs on the street. That's when they had some sort of swagger. They would rather deal drugs on the street. Now, they may use that as an excuse, but they will not get on welfare. This used to be an attitude. This used to be a mindset, especially in the Black community.
I don't know what happened. Now they fund it. Like, oh, I got my little Medicaid. I gotta take my vaccine so I can get my Medicaid. You might as that's basically Obamacare. I mean, what?
Yep. And guess what? Ain't got money, and there's no money in there anyways. You know that all the money that you paid into when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid, our amazing administrations, I mean, you go back 40 years, 40 years, they've used the money for their dealings. So now we're in debt, and a major reason why we're in such a debt is to pay up money that they took from us. So there's not even any money there. So please seek the Lord. Really do seek the Lord on how you can escape, because he'll give you a way of escape.
And that's right, Danielle. They are proud of the mental disability checks too, which is another joke. They'll claim some mental or physical disability so quick so they don't got to work to get a check. It's sad. They sent me an email talking about I got 2 more credits left and then I could apply for disabilities and I'll get $1,000 a month on disability.
Well, from where?
From Social Security. I said, wait a minute. They're gonna do what? I said, no, ma'am. I don't listen. I'm opting out of paying Social Security. I don't want government to. First of all, let me tell you something right now. Little do y'all know, for the ones who working and putting into Social Security and helping pay for these lazy boneheads, Social Security about to pass by 2050. There ain't gonna be enough money. Y'all gonna get robbed, just like the people who got robbed in 2008. So if you know what's best for you, you better find a way to opt out of paying your Social Security and put yourself into like a 401k or something like that. Or like, what is the accounts? I think it's a Roth account. Or something like that.
Roth, what's that? Roth IRA?
Roth IRA or something like that. And start saving money like that. Stop giving your money to government. Stop. They are going to rob you. And they're not going to give you nothing they promise. I promise you that. Anyway. This last thing, and then we want to take a couple questions. So she said, do you think this is part of the Great Reset? I'm going to say this right now. The Great Reset is blowing up in their face. It's not happening as fast as they wanted it. If you still think everything is just going according to plan, no. What they failed to realize, first of all, give it up for America. Give it up for separations of states. That is becoming a wall for a lot of tyranny, or we would be like Europe right now. And also you got to remember, we are the kings in culture. America's the kings in culture. No one's ever gonna go looking for CCP, looking advice for CCP. Who the hell wants to get advice from the Chinese government? Let me just sit and watch some Chinese government and see what they're gonna do. Maybe we'll replicate that. Except for these leftist communists. Who else? Nobody. But everybody's going to replicate what America's doing. So just even right now with what happened in Supreme Court, I'm pretty sure it's going to make some waves across to all the other nations. And then at the same time, the separations of power right now that we have in this nation, this is what they're working on getting rid of. Once they can get every single nation blue, they got us. Every single state, which is technically a nation. Once they can get every single state blue, they got us. But as long as we continue to stay separate and we don't become incumbent as one, we'll be good to go. It won't work. Not for this nation. Not until the rapture, like I said before. Okay. Next, we're gonna take a couple questions and then we getting up out of here. Okay, that's it. I don't see many questions, you guys.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Jamie, if you submit your application, hurry up, do it now. You got a deadline till March for us to try to get you on a ticket, so you better hurry up. Okay, I'm gonna give it like 2 more seconds for some questions, and then we're gonna get up out of here.
Plan has been derailed.
She's right about that.
We keep God first. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's not for lack of trying.
Not for lack of trying. They
the enemy
try.
is overtime trying, and he's had some good strides. But God.
Yes, they said. Julie said, "Nah, we don't have any questions."
Please.
All right, so we closing out for the night, you guys. Thank y'all so much. God bless y'all, and again, continue to pray, continue to trust in the Lord. But this situation is glass half full, and it's time for you guys, all of us, to be independent. And KCP encourages businesses to be started. We also encourage holistic medicine. We also encourage going natural. Actually, on the next live, I'm going on vacation. Me and hubby are going on vacation. So we won't be having a live again until, what, 2 Thursdays from now?
I think so. Well, I think
not next Thursday, but the following Thursday. And I want to discuss our stance on agriculture. Okay, and we're going to talk about a couple of things that we actually agree with the liberals, but it's at food, full stop. Okay. I'm gonna tell you right now, liberals make some good food. Okay, every time we go to a liberal, and you know they're liberal when they got them paper straws, but that food be fresh. Okay, yeah, excellent. Am I lying?
It is.
It be excellent. Yeah. But now you go to a conservative spot with them plastic straws, they food don't hit like that. I'm sorry, because they got all the GMO cheap food.
Yeah. And then we tend, and then you add the church to it, and we fall short many a times when it comes to food. We're obese, we tend to be the ones that have a huge addiction to food, even in the body of Christ. So that's a whole nother subject. Paper
straws. That's right. Them paper straws. I'm like, oh God, they're liberal, but the food be good. All right, we gotta go. We love you guys. God bless y'all. Till next time.